So hey guys, today we're taking a look at Mitsurugi and why I think Mitsurugi is absolutely just stupidly designed. So we'll just start with the basic combo. So worth mentioning, one card combo. This is a one card combo, so you have your three Habakiri. You have Aramasa, which I believe you would play at 3 as well. Because you can just normal summon Aramasa, and this isn't necessarily part of the combo, and you just do like Aramasa adds Abakiri, right? Normal summon this. You have a bunch of one card stars essentially. You also technically have prayers, which you can also use to just add Habakiri. So if we're looking purely in archetype, I believe that this is like 9 one card starters, unless you can also one card start with Saji, which I'm not like 100% sure about because you don't really have a good way to, I believe, get into your things from Saji, right? Let's see. Normal summon Saji. Saji would have to probably add, I guess, it'd be prayers, tributes, Saji, I guess, to add a Mitsurugi monster from your deck to your hand. Then special summon a Mitsurugi monster from your hand or graveyard. Let's see, does this get to combo? If you normal summon this, add a Mitsurugi monster. What Mitsurugi monster do we have to add? I think it's probably going to be it. Ame no Habakiri, right? And then you won't be able to tribute anything. If you could tribute Habakiri, I think it's close to getting there. But I don't think you have a way to do that at this point. So I don't think it's combo from here. If you were to add at least prayers, right? Mitsurugi Ritual requires you to have one more reptile. Actually, right? Yeah. It's close, but not quite there. If you had one more level 4 monster, I believe, you could add Mitsurugi Ritual, maybe, to like ritual summon a guy from the deck, but then you still don't have anything, right? Because just ritual summoning any of these guys does essentially nothing. Yeah. So it should just be these 9. But essentially, all of these guys lead to Habakiri and then Habakiri effect to do the combo. So what is so stupid about this combo? So in terms of generic hand traps, what can you do about this? So Ash Blossom Joyous Spring on Ame no Habakiri stops this, right? But what if you have Imperm or Veiler? When is the first point in time where you can actually do something with Imperm versus Habakiri? Let's go ahead and see. So we go Habakiri effect, and then it will special summon and then tribute a monster, so it triggers in the graveyard. So nothing you can Imperm here, and that monster in question should be Saji. Saji will then add a copy of Mitsurugi Ritual, which then you can use to special summon Habakiri, which also does nothing on the field, and this triggers 2 graveyard effects, being the Kusanagi and then whatever else. In this case, it could be like Nightsword Serpent or whatever, right? So still nothing you can do about this. And then you add back Mitsurugi Ritual, tributes Habakiri. This triggers in the graveyard once again. And the special summons Ame no Murakamo, which honestly doesn't trigger on field or anything. And you can technically, well, it depends, but you can add like Mitsurugi Prayers or Great Purification here. And then, depending on which, you can tribute Ame no Murakamo, trigger this to then search, I guess. It could be Great Purification at this point, special summon this guy back. And that would be special summon with its own effect, I believe. And this would allow you to also special summon one of your level 4 reptiles from the graveyard to make like a rank 4. So the first point in time where you can Imperm against this is practically when your opponent makes a rank 4. So the rank 4, it doesn't really matter what it does. You could be making like Gallant Granite, King of the Feral Imps, Duo Drive, whatever. And at that point, if you do imperm that rank 4, you also have to discard a card going overall -2 to resolve a single infinite impermanence. And before that point, there was genuinely not even an effect on anything here if you imperm it. It does genuinely nothing. And this applies to Effect Veiler as well. And then, as for Bestials, same kind of deal. The first thing you can actually Bestial is Habakiri, which has the effect Special Summon itself, except that doesn't fully matter, because the order for this card is to add and then Special Summon, so you're only preventing the Special Summon on Habakiri. So if your opponent really wants to go into rank 8 for some reason, that's all the Bestial really stops here. That, or you can potentially stop a rank 4 play by banishing potential targets for your opponent to reborn. Except, no, you can't. Because, let's see. Prayers here. This doesn't target. So, in this case, we should expect there to be Kusanagi and at least Saji in the graveyard, which are both darks, but you would have to banish both these guys to prevent your opponent from making a rank 4. So, Bestials, Imperm, Veiler, all of those are very ineffective considering this is just a 1-card combo, right? Where you just activate Abakiri. And then you resolve this. And then you have like Joel and Lockbird, which can kind of kill this combo a little bit. Let's see. If we start this, grabs this Mitsurugi Ritual. You can still Ritual to summon Murakamo, right? Yeah, Murakumo, yeah. So Habakiri, special, grab, ritual, tributes. I guess in this case it'll be you can do tribute Habakiri to special summon Murakumo. You won't be able to add anything, but you still have Murakumo on the field. Special summon from the deck, I believe. Let's read this to make sure you can actually do that. Ritual summon a ritual monster from your deck by tributing reptile monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal the level of the ritual monster. Well, actually, wait. Can't you still go like Abakiri, special summon, tribute Kusanagi, plus like Night Sword Serpent, special summon Night Sword Serpent? So you're not actually searching with Kusanagi. Kusanagi then goes effect to add back ritual, then you tribute, I guess, Abakiri, special summon Murakumo. This cannot search because of Joel, so you cannot add the card and special summon this back. But you do have a level 4 plus a level 8 monster in this case, so no normal summon at this point, so you could technically normal summon another guy and then make Vaguska from here, if it was not banned. Wow, that's disgusting. Well, this isn't fully an Omni Negate, but it's kind of an Omni Negate, so even after Joel, you can still get access to this card here. And if you just happen to, for example, open Prayers, so you still have a Prayers, you need Prayers to tribute this guy to trigger the effect to destroy your opponent's monsters as well on the next turn still. So you have to keep in mind all of the lines, well, the only line I'm analyzing right now, pretty much, is just a 1-card line. And you really haven't stopped much here. And assuming you just draw this, if they're playing an engine aside from Mitsurugi here, like Orchest only has 1 search in it, Malice only has 1 search in it, a lot of decks surprisingly only search once, and this doesn't even require a normal summon, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty terrible to deal with. Because your opponent would be able to just play for free after this point, and if you were to drop an interruption, you're still going to lose like around 2 cards in hand, which is disgusting off of the Murakumo. So once from turn 1, and then another time on turn 2. Still. And there's not really too much you can do about this. Hell, like you can't even stop Kusanagi add back unless you have like DD Crow specifically, because you can chain block this. after you resolve Ritual. I guess if you could stop Ritual, that would help. But you cannot Ash Mitsurugi Ritual because it has effect here. Uh, you're essentially tributing guys from your deck, which is not listed on Ash Blossom Joe Spring because it's not sending the cards to the graveyard, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, that's really hard to stop. So we have, for some reason, really high hand trap resistance, like almost to an unnatural degree, right? Well, there are a few decks and such that are a little bit more resistant than this, I would say, arguably. But the amount of resistance on this without requiring a normal summon and having so many starters, like, this is technically not all of the starters that are possible for this that don't even require your normal summon. Like, if we throw in pre-prep, chaotic elements, it goes even higher. And then I haven't even mentioned this part yet, but if we actually take a look at these cards real quick, if this card is tributed, it doesn't say if this card is in the graveyard at all. Did you guys notice that at all? So this as well. This adds from your graveyard or banishment, meaning you can actually play at least Mitsurugi Pier under macro, and you would be able to do so. So we could even tribute this, right? Let's see, tribute, special summon from banished, perfectly possible. So in cases like this, I guess it would be better to have like just simply 2 Mikoto to have a little bit better grind game. But aside from that, because Mikoto getting banished would be really annoying, and not having access to this card, that might be the only annoying thing. Aside from that, let's see. Yeah, there are things like the graveyard effect of Great Purification, which this has follow-up on it as well. Without even considering the fact that, you know, Murakamo can technically, Murakumo here can search follow-up. Also Habakiri as well whenever they are tributed, which you could theoretically on a second turn tribute them with Great Purification or like Mitsurugi Prayers. And then you can special summon another guy from your graveyard as well. So you have insane setup for your follow-up here, where you can trigger a billion guys essentially to just you know, set up your guys. And also worth mentioning is with location changes, you can kind of break triggers, if that makes sense. So this only applies to exactly prayers. So you tribute here as cost. All of these other tributes are essentially by effect. So that means the effects will pretty much always trigger, except for if they are tributed by prayers. So let's assume my opponent has a Bestial Magma or DD Crow. DD Crow being a little bit better, I guess. If we have a DD Crow, well, there are some cards where if you were to send them to the graveyard and then they were to be banished, they actually do not get triggered necessarily, right? So that would be like, for example, if we sent our opponent to Mirror Jade and then we banished it in the same chain, so it goes destroy and then banish. So that would be something like a Gold Sark Gandara, which destroys and then banishes. That would not trigger Mirror Jade because its location changed twice, so it has essentially, I guess, what you would think of it as amnesia. He's kind of a bit lost, you know? We can't as easily do that with these guys. So in this case, our opponent, if they tribute with this, we can then banish it. It's kind of like with Hieratic Seals, I guess, where when Hieratic Seals tributes itself for cost, if you were to change the location of the seals from the graveyard, it does not trigger the effect that triggers when it is tributed. You special summon any dragon from the main deck, right? So that would not trigger. And then it just resolves, I guess, right? Just the bounce effect. So in this case, it would not be a Called by the Grave, just like a Bestial on seals would be enough to cause this to happen. With Mitsurugi, you don't really have that opportunity because they tribute for effect. So it fully resolves, and then next chain, when you're able to activate something, the effect's already activated, if that makes sense. which makes it also more rough to deal with. So, to sum this up, hand trap resistant, just in general, you know. And also, we are looking at a very consistent strategy. Many different ways to access the starters, like chaotic element, pre-prep, and then there's probably a few other ways to actually search Habakiri as well. Like if you really cared, I guess you could small world as well, but that's not necessarily as efficient if you just want specifically a Habakiri, right? So hand trap resistant, um, just consistent normally doesn't require normal summon, no lock. There's so many attributes to Mitsurugi which makes it just like infuriating and kind of dumb, right? And then you gotta consider the fact that these cards are hella sticky and they have some grind game. And arguably, I'd say that there's more grind game and they're also harder to stop than, for example, a fiendsmith. So that is to say, in my opinion, this deck is extremely frustrating, or just archetype in general. And to check this real quick, does this only switch roll from graveyard? Yeah, there's no card once return on this effect, but yeah, I guess. Sure is annoying. Oh, forgot to mention this, but they also have annoying effects that make it hard to remove these guys as well. So we gotta consider a few things. So these guys specifically can be reborn from the graveyard here with the effect of prayers. And then you also have the fact that these guys trigger like a billion times. Kind of like a Tri-Brigade, honestly. Similar-ish to that. Except, you know, well, actually, you even kind of have something similar to a Tri-Brigade Revolt with this card. Because you don't have a way to recycle this, do you? No, wait, you do, don't you? You can recycle it with Kusanagi. Never mind, it is better. Okay, so let's see. So you attribute this specials. It special summons itself. If you are able to get rid of this somehow, it can be special summoned back with prayers. And then there's also the fact that your all of your monsters lose 800 attack points from this. And then these guys are fairly big too, 3.2k, 3.4k, 2.4k, which is closer to 3.2k because of the attack lose effect here. And then if you think of the boost that way, this is like a 4k. This one is going to be like 4.2k in terms of stat lines. So the stat lines are actually a little bit ridiculous because boss monsters usually hang around 3,000. These are all difficult to out. Like a Baron could not out these by battle, right? So that's disgusting. And like a Kashtira monster obviously could not out any of these guys. And then all of the smaller Mitsurugi cards have this effect. If another reptile monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you contribute this card instead, and then that also will trigger the effect right here to do like some searching, recycling, whatever. If you were able to destroy these guys by battle, the little guys protect them, so you'd have to get rid of the little guys, but the little guys actually technically protect each other. So there's also that aspect, and then there's the aspect of these guys all being able to be recycled and stuff. So it becomes like really ridiculously sticky. So they're hard to out by battle, hard somewhat to out them by card effect, because you know they do have not only an Omni Negate, but a very effective Monster Reborn. So let's say, for example, you have, I don't know, like a Raigeki or something. I could even hold on to prayers and use it purely as a Monster Reborn. But if I didn't want to use it purely as a Monster Reborn, I can just use Great Purification effect to negate like a Raigeki or something. The only thing that they don't have going for them, I guess, is that this is just a normal trap and not a counter trap. And that's about all I can say for that, right? Wait, what does this card do again? Hold up, let's see. Mitsurugi Sacred Boundary. Your opponent cannot target Mitsurugi ritual monsters you control with effects of monsters that are special summon from the extra deck. Wow, if you had this card on the field, this is even more annoying, honestly. Great. Target 4 Mitsurugi cards in your graveyard, shuffle them, and then if your opponent controls a monster, make them tribute one monster they control their choice. This card isn't even that bad. I mean, it's like not necessary at all, but that could do quite some recycling. How about this one? Magatama. Destroy one face-up card your opponent controls. Targeted. Okay. Ritual summon a Mitsurugi ritual monster from your hand by tributing monsters you control whose total levels exceed its level. That could trigger a bunch of things, actually. Sketchy. And then this just reborns any reptile monster, right? And this is just once per chain, so anytime your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon as well. So this can special summon back Murakamo, all the little guys, the big guys. And yeah, I mean, the whole archetype is lacking in what I would call like a weakness. Yeah, you know? Like when you think of good design, I usually think like, let's say you have a Dark Souls boss, right? So let's just say we have Gundyr, right? Gundyr is a pretty intimidating boss, pretty strong. I don't think he's like that weak by any means, but there's like one really big weakness with kind of Gundyr, aside from like elemental weaknesses and all that, and that would be like his attacks do not really cover his back, so you can just hang around his back and kind of deal with him that way. And that's like a pretty free way to deal with him. But even if you don't, you can also like parry Gundyr. But you know, if you mess up the parry, you're just going to die to Gundyr, and I think that's fairly fair, right? But when you look at like Mitsurugi, this is going to be like pretty impossible to deal with in comparison. This is like, I guess, Dancer of the Boreal Valley, where it's like, okay, just simply have the exact perfect out and just do exactly what you need. You know, it's actually no. I would say it's even more closer to what's his face, Jorm the Giant, I believe. Except that you're not using his gimmick to beat him, right? And there is no gimmick. They don't give you the gimmick weapon to beat him, right? And you just have to find a way to slowly chip at it because there's no real weakness, and you kind of just suffer here. Yeah. Superman kind of boring without his kryptonite, and he kind of never struggles, right? That's how I feel about Mitsurugi right now. Like, where's the kryptonite to this? Droll isn't even like going to be that insane against pure Mitsurugi, is it? They actually made it a little bit better because they banned Baguska simply, I think. Otherwise, I think you can still access Baguska under Droll, can't you? Like, what? That's disgusting, actually. Damn. Yeah, they would have extremely easy access to Baguska. If you had, like, Prayers plus Saji, you could even resolve these two searches at once, couldn't you? Like, almost. Well, actually, since this is a quick effect, even if you drolled, you can resolve the prayers here, yeah? To at least perform a search. Not sure how I should feel about that. But alright, I guess. Mitsurugi, just why? That's how I feel about it. I mean, like, rituals deserved something, but Mitsurugi's a bit much. If you at least threw on some sort of lock on it, like, kind of like Branded, because Branded was close to this power level, and I think everyone was fairly fine with Branded, right? Because it had that insane fusion lock. I think Mitsurugi needs that same lock, but just lock them out the extra deck entirely, pretty much, or slap a reptile lock that's as insane as like the Branded lock, where for the whole turn, you should not be able to do something. There should be some sort of restriction like that on Mitsurugi. Otherwise, it's just like fiendsmith +1, basically. In terms of like just raw engine strength, I think it's going to be better. It requires more main deck spaces technically, but I mean you can see that as a positive or a negative because you just have more free extra deck spaces like this, but it takes up more main deck spaces, so you have less room here technically. But you have 60 card slots actually in your main deck and only 15 in the extra. So if you want to min max it like that, Mitsurugi is even more insane in kind of like 60 card piles for that kind of reason, right? And technically, you can bridge into anything from Mitsurugi as well. Like, we don't even have to go into that. Just, you can. Trust me, you can make Curious. And then you can make Dugars, bring back, like, any monster. And that's doable as, like, a one-card combo with Habakiri. So, yeah, that's great. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.